Hello and welcome to the Reflection Show with me, Martha in Spice. Today we want to have an amazing conversation with the Ghana National Fire Service. We've seen a lot of fire outbreaks, and then especially in Tamale, we've seen some very dangerous fire outbreaks that we are not happy about, that has affected a lot of properties and some lives. I'll be speaking with ADO2 Hudu Baba, then ADO2 Yusuf Adidu. Mr. Alido is he's part of the Regional Safety Department, and Mr. Baba is part of the Northern Regional PRO for the Ghana National Fire Service. I usually get confused when I want to say fire service. I'll just say National Service. We all need to make sure that we are careful and keep our surroundings safe away from fire. We'll be looking at some of the causes of fires and how we can prevent them. Then we'll take a practical look at how we can extinguish fires so that we can all stay safe and strong. Let's go for a break. I am Martha Inspired. Welcome back from the break. It's still the Reflection Show with me, Martha Inspires. Thank you very much for joining me, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's your second time on the show,
yes.
And so glad to always have you, and it's helping us to understand the importance of how we all need to learn how to extinguish fires and all of that. Straight to the point, what is the mandate of the Ghana National Fire Service? Apart from, of course, it's one of the things, extinguishing fires or educating us, but beyond that, what else do you do?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me say shout outs to your viewers, and also say a big thank you to you yourself for giving us this platform to educate at least the public to know some of these issues or causes of fires and why we should be preventing them. Yes, the Ghana National Fire Service was established under the Act 537, and under this Act we have mandate. We are under Section 4 of the Act. It spells out our functions. Yes, the most paramount of it is to educate the public on fire safety.
Okay.
Whereby we need to create the awareness and heighten the need for them to know and prevent the occurrence of fires. Then also, we are also mandated to effect rescuing. And then we also inspect buildings as to whether they have this fire safety measures put in place.
Okay.
And then also to ensure that especially public facilities have fire certificate. And so if a facility has a fire certificate, that means that that facility is secured and safe for public to use. Whether the employers themselves, or better so, the property owners themselves, or whoever wants to use that facility is safe in using the facility, because there are a lot of things that goes through acquiring the fire certificate. And so before you are granted a fire certificate, that means that you met all
the
those
requirements.
Yes. And so other mandates that are there for us to perform. I think in due course we'll be spelling out the rest for the public to know.
Okay. I think let me just go straight to Mr. Lidio on this. Let's start just looking at the causes. We've seen a lot of fire outbreaks here and there. What are some of the causes that you've seen in your day-to-day encounter? What are some of the things that causes this fire outbreaks?
Thank you very much for the opportunity given. Like you rightly mentioned, there are so many causes that we as Ghana National Fire Service do encounter, even though we do as much as our possible best to educate on the need on how to prevent fires from occurring. Of course, you and I know very well that prevention, they say, is better than cure. So for sure, we always step up our educational campaign in order to prevent this. But notwithstanding, we cannot have it all. And for that matter, sometimes these fires do come. And some of the causes are one. I'm going to put them into two categories. Some are man-made ones or human-induced ones. And the other, we have natural causes. It happens naturally. Now, when we come to look at the human-induced aspect, which is more important to us, because we can have control over this, but we cannot have control over the natural causes.
So the human-induced ones.
So the human-induced ones, for example, leaving your home, for example, we all use electricity. We deployed or advise people to always ensure that they leave homes whilst they put out or they try to switch their gadgets that are not supposed to be used 24 hours. And those gadgets, for example, you don't need to leave your AC whilst you go to work, whilst you are not at home. Fans, you can name them. Two, we also, some of the induced ones to have something to do with the way we use our LPG gases at home. Most at homes, especially the domestic ones, during our cooking, the way we manage or used these LPG gases leave so much we desire. Ideally, like we said, the components of an LPG gas, we have the burner and we have the cylinder itself. We say you ensure that you don't marry these two together. When I say you don't marry these two together, the cylinder has to be at a safer place, whilst the burner, where the naked fire exists, be in another place. But there are situations where you will see people bringing these things very close together. And also, during, for instance, cooking, there are people who goes to open the cylinder first whilst they are looking for their matches to come and even open. And during this time, the flow of gas in the tubing is going. By the time, if you take even 3 seconds to 4 seconds to come back, the gas or the excessive gas that has already gone through, any strike of matches or any light can cause a disaster at the kitchen. So some of they are enormous, but for the purposes of this, we cannot count everything. Even the candles we use at homes, unattended.
The mosquito coils.
The mosquito coils. Even the way we display our mattresses. We always say that out of reach of children, but how many of us does that?
That's true.
So we...
And I think I've heard something about not using anything spray. No, I think, so there are two things about, so if you smell gas in your room or your kitchen, don't put on the lights.
If you, exactly. Don't put on the light because heat is a factor.
But does it happen immediately, like as
you
soon
know,
as you
gas,
on it? Because
gas
it will take
fires,
time before the heat.
You know, gas fires is spontaneous. It happens the moment
the heat
is introduced. And in every fire, heat is one of the cardinal points. Like the we said before fire will come, there are 3 issues that has to come together to make up the fire. We have the oxygen, we have the heat, and we also have the fuel. But among these 3, heat is the key. If we are able to manage heat, we will be able to tame fire to its minimum, or minimum level, for should I say. Yes.
Okay, now let's come to the preventions. How are some of the ways we can prevent fire occurrences?
Yes, like he mentioned some of the causes of such fires. Prevention is also at our level.
Okay.
All the causes he has mentioned are fires we can prevent, things we can prevent. For instance, you need to do regular check. For instance, if you are living, you have your electrical gadgets, what you need to do is to ensure that everything is off before you
leave
step
the
out.
house. How
Now,
about the fridge? You know, the fridge is something that
yes,
sometimes
the
is really
fridge
difficult
is
to put
something we
off.
always leave it on 24/7. And so what we advise is that we acquire what we call a stabilizer. A stabilizer is what it's a gadget that can contain excessive current. So when you have excessive current passing through the system, a stabilizer can contain the current and then supplies your gadget with the required voltage it needs. So for instance, if a fridge is supposed to take 200 volts of current, now, and the excessive current that passes through the system is something like 300. If the stabilizer is not there, the 300 will pass through to the gadget.
Wow.
And so what then will it do?
So which means you have an excess of 100.
100.
Because
So
it was
will burn.
designed to contain 200, like he mentioned.
That's
Now
true.
300 voltage
going
is
through
going
it.
through it. So which means that
So it's a stabilizer that would keep
Yes,
it on
the
a normal
stabilizer
pace.
will now take the current and supply the required one.
And I also heard that it's not advisable to be close to your burner and holding your phone. Like sometimes you are cooking and you got a call and you are frying something or doing something, you are talking on the phone.
Yes,
It can easily
it can also
spark
react.
fire.
Yes, so it is only advisable that you should put the phone aside. Do your cookings, finish everything before you now come back to pick it. There are instances whereby we are cooking whilst keeping like napkins. You clean your hand and you put it on the burner. It is a bad habit.
Wow.
You need to always put it aside. Then we can also say that there are instances whereby the public, we actually do not create a balance between our security and that of our safety. Because we see that we put on burglar proofs, we put on metal doors and what have you, just because we don't want thieves
To come in.
Now you are living and actually locking your room with the real thief that you know. The real thief I call is fire. Because we are saying that for safety's sake, try as much as possible. As soon as you get to the door, come back. Do a double check again.
My dad used to do that. He
Yes.
would take some 5 steps, come back, go to every room to check that everything
Now,
is.
we are used to putting off the plug, but fail to unplug.
Okay, so
the
it's
cord.
not enough to just
Put it off.
off the TV with the remote.
Yes.
It's not enough to just put off the
The
plug,
plug.
but you have to actually withdraw the
Withdraw it,
connection.
yes.
Even though it's off, it can still
Yes.
spark. Wow.
Sometimes when you off it and you look through the plug, you can sometimes see fire, like a light.
Yeah, it has. I've seen that before.
That is for a reason. So if you actually leave it on and there is this power fluctuation and it comes like that, you are likely to get fire. So we advise that.
How about the AC plug?
Yes, the AC plug, sometimes we also advise that the AC can also be connected to a stabilizer. Yes, so when it is connected to the stabilizer, you are safe.
So it
even
means
though
not just
it
offing
is
the
off.
AC with the
The remote.
remote. You have to off it on the
Yes,
plug.
you need to off
This
it.
one, there are a lot of us.
Yes, you need to off
Because
it.
sometimes you feel lazy
Because
to like
one thing
leave
is,
it on.
most of our fires evolves around electricity.
Okay.
And that is because we have come to accept electricity as part of us. And we use electricity for almost everything. And so the possibility of it causing the fires are very great than the other.
Okay.
So the need for us to always put much attention on whatever we use the electricity for is very paramount.
Okay.
Yes. Now, we mentioned the candle. The candle and that of the mosquito coil is something we underrate. We look down upon these two items, which is causing us a lot of harm. The candle, for instance, you see people put on the candle and then place it on a table or even on a carpet, sometimes on a paper. And we know all those things mentioned are
Can easily
combustible
spark
materials.
fire.
And so when it burns to that level and you are not around or you are sleeping, then the harm is caused. So we advise that the candle should be put in a bowl and then put some little water.
I think that there used to be these bowls we used to call 5-5.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
Or
can-
better still, ceramic place.
Yeah.
Yes, ceramic place. So
advisable.
what we personally, what I advise is put some little water in the whatever
Bowl you
container
want to
you are
put it,
putting
yeah.
it in. Then when it burns to the level of the water, automatically the water will extinguish the fire. Then again, the mosquito coil is what we underrate most, and that is what is also causing a lot of harm to us.
Okay.
Yes, I remember just last month, the Fila FM building.
Yes, I
Yes.
saw that.
Nearly, it was because of our market patrol team, guys who were around the
there.
place. They were able to spot the fire in good time.
Wow.
And were able to
go
save
there.
the situation.
Yeah, and,
So-
and that big fire that happened at I think the central of town. I will come back and talk about that
All
and
right.
how we can put a lot of measures.
Okay.
But we've been talking. Most times when I do this episode, a lot of questions comes. We want to see the practicals. We want to see how to actually extinguish fire. Let's step outside and have a look at how we can extinguish fires properly, correctly, and accurately. Stay tuned. So right now we are going to have a practical demonstration on how to extinguish fires. A lot of us sometimes see fires in our house, in our shops, or wherever we might find, but we don't even know how to even go about it. So I'm seeing a lot of things. Of course, I've seen this before. The last time you were on the show, on that's the fire extinguishers. But I see
What you are seeing here, we have fire extinguishers, we have petrol, of course we have what we call our improvised fire blankets that we are going to use to do the demonstration. And then the extinguishers that we have here, they are, you can see they are of different shapes, and for that matter they are of types. The one here is what we term as dry chemical powder fire extinguisher. The name is even boldly written on it. This one you are seeing here is what we term as CO2 or carbon dioxide fire extinguisher, as the name has also what inscripted on it. They all perform the same functions, but then in different places. For instance, with the CO2, it is always very good when you are using it in an indoors. When I say indoors, in an enclosed environment, like our kitchens, offices, and the likes. Unlike the dry chemical powder, it is very good in an open space like where we are standing when there is a fire outbreak. So we'll do all that demonstration for you to see.
So first of all, what we have to do now is to try to create fire, not one that happens and destroys our thing, but to create fire so that when something is about to happen. So how do we create our fire? So we have to go here.
Yes. I'm about to pour my petrol.
So like you can see, this is just sand we are using and petrol. Hey!
Fire. So
This fire. So
once, for example, the fire is on, you don't have a fire extinguisher, and of course you want to put this out. So we luckily have our improvised fire blanket. You will see how he's going to blanket or envelope the fire. For that matter, the fire will automatically goes off. And when that is done, we call it starvation. He's coming there to starve the fire. Now, you can see a smoke is still coming. What it basically means is that you have to wait. As you are seeing this one going on, within some 30 seconds, it will subside. That means that the oxygen that was being captured or trapped in, because oxygen supports burning. So as the oxygen goes, the fire will automatically goes off. Because we have three things in fire burning. We have the oxygen, the fuel, and that of the heat. Okay. And when you eliminate one of these, of course, fire can no longer exist. Great. And what we are doing here, we are eliminating what? Oxygen.
Wow. Wow.
You can see, as it's taking it off, now oxygen, the fire has already what? The heat has taken the oxygen. And for that matter, there cannot be an existence of what? Fire.
So that's one easy way to extinguish fire. Oh, I keep saying off fire, to extinguish fires.
Sure.
So by just using the sack, dipping it in just any kind of water to cover it.
Precisely, not any kind of water. The water should be as pure and as clean. Okay. Because let's say you are dipping it into an oilic water, that is a water that has been mixed with oil. Of course, you are rather adding more fuel to the fire. So therefore, your water should be as pure so that you can what?
How about soapy water?
Soapy water can also equally be used, but that one has a place or where we normally what? Use it. So that one we call it foam. When you use soapy water, this is what we term as foam. And usually we always use it during what? Petrol fires or liquid fires.
So
just to add to what we just demonstrated, this is for a reason. Like we say, improvised way. The official way of extinguishing fire is by the aid of a fire extinguisher. So we are doing this for the public to know that despite the fact that you do not have the extinguisher, it doesn't mean that you cannot extinguish fire in your settings. So what that means is that when you do not have any of these extinguishers, then you need to improvise, think ahead. In case of emergency, what will I do? So one, you should be thinking of the cocoa sack. You can also think about the blanket. Just the normal blanket that we know. You can also use it.
The normal blanket we use in our house?
Yes. Oh, nice. You can still use it. Even towel, yes. Okay. We are looking for thick materials that can contain fire to some extent. You understand? Yeah. So when you use it, dip it into water, then you can be able to use it. Okay. Yes. So everybody should know that it doesn't necessarily mean that you should have the extinguisher, but the extinguisher is more effective. However, our fingers are not equal. So whilst I can buy an extinguisher, Mr. B might not be able to buy. So you need to think of a possible way you can also extinguish fire without the extinguisher.
Extinguisher. Sometimes we go to these public offices or public organizations or even our own offices and we see fire extinguishers and we don't even know how to use it. We don't even know how to go about even starting to use a fire extinguisher. Do we think they are useless in our offices? We want organizations to do well as much as possible to train their staff or even schools to train their students on how to use these fire extinguishers, because what if the worst happens? The extinguishers are going to be there, but they're just going to run out of the classrooms or out of the offices and the company or whatever can get burnt. Meanwhile, they could have just stopped the fire just when it started. So let's go. I think we're going to create fire again.
There are so many people who have bought this on the roadside. Of course, they don't even know how to operate it.
That's true.
So we would like to take them through how to operate it in an event that there is an outbreak of fire. Just not you have acquired it, but then the usage is what's very, very important. And I like the fact that you are encouraging them that training is one of the cardinal things that we request that the public should fall on us, and we'll give it to them. So let me walk you through. Like I said initially, this is dry chemical powder fire extinguisher and this is CO2 or carbon dioxide fire extinguisher. They have actually a body pass on them. First of all, how do you transport a fire extinguisher? There are people whom now, if you ask, bring me a fire extinguisher, they come to hold different parts of it. But then there is a place we call carrying handle. And this part is what we term as carrying handle. That is a place where you use to transport the fire extinguisher from one place to another. Then on top of that, as I'm carrying the fire extinguisher, you realize that my thumb is up. Where my thumb is up, there is another lever there, and that particular lever is called operating lever. And there is also one hose here that you are seeing. This hose is called a delivery hose. That is where the chemical will move eventually to the fire ground. And the whole of the system here is what we call the cylinder that houses the chemical. And here we have what we call pressure gauge. The various parts here is the same thing to this. The only difference is that whilst this one has pressure gauge, that is dry powder has pressure gauge, CO2 doesn't have a pressure gauge.
Oh, okay.
And once we have what we call delivery hose, with the CO2, you always find the mouth very wide, and we call it horn. So anytime you see any fire extinguisher with the mouth very wide, it is always CO2 or carbon dioxide fire extinguisher. So basically, this is the various parts. Now, how do we use it? Just for the sake of the public not to get confused, anytime there is an outbreak, we always give a password or an acronym. And in short, it is nothing but PASS, P-A-S-S. You can keep this just in your fingertips and use it to operate what? Fire extinguisher. Any fire extinguisher. Now, what does the PASS stands for? The P stands for first, pull out, safety pin. This is what we term as safety pin. Every fire extinguisher has a safety pin. It is there to ensure that the extinguisher doesn't operate when you don't need it to operate. By mistake, it goes. So it is called safety pin. So the P stands for pull out safety pin. The A stands for aim at the base of the fire. This is where our fire is. This is where the base of the fire is. So if I remove the safety pin here, the next thing is to hold the hose and aim. Okay? And aim at the base of the fire. That is exactly where the fire is. That is what the A is telling us. The first S is saying you have aimed at the base of the fire. The next step is to squeeze the operating lever I told you, so the content can begin to come out. And once the content begins to come out, it is coming with a certain force by all means. So when it hits the ground or where exactly the fire is, chances are that some of the fire may fly left and right or front and back. So for that matter, what you need to do is to sweep at sizes so that those that have moved from left to right, you will be able to cover it. That is what the PASS stands for.
Okay. So PASS, which says that the
pull out safety pin.
the safety pin, aim at the fire, and
squeeze
operating lever and sweep
at sizes
of the fire. Okay, so this PASS is supposed to be on our fingertips.
Good.
Pull out, aim,
squeeze
and sweep. It's something we can easily put at the back of our mind. Good. So now we know this. This is dry chemical powder. This is CO2. So,
and one thing about this tool is that when you operate the dry powder, you will see the powder content visible. So what it means is that you will see it everywhere. So when you operate it indoors, that is where we're encouraging that people can use this one in an enclosed environment, so that one doesn't leave any residual. This one, of course, at the end of it, or the powder will take the environment of which you need to clean. So by this one, the moment you discharge it, which is the CO2 or the carbon dioxide, the place is safe and the place is as neat as it were when the fire occurred. Good.
So now we are moving to demonstration, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's
by using this.
So we'll start by using the CO2. Okay, so it's basically the same process or the same way of using them, but it just as one has chemicals. So when you spray it, the particles begin to fall. So are we about to create fire again? So let's go. About to create fire again.
Fire. The PASS, do not perform it where you have picked the fire extinguisher. Quickly lift it, and when you get closer, at least 3 to 4 minutes from meters away from the fire, you put your extinguisher down, hold the current handle down, for instance like this, and put a finger on the safety pin, pull. For instance this way, you see that it has come out, leave it, pick it up and stand this way, stretch one leg out. Then you hold the hose. This time, this is the hose. And now, I told you have aim like that. What is next? Squeeze operating lever. And sweep. Now, our intention, the first one, when I squeeze, you saw that the content came. The fire didn't go off because I didn't what? Sweep. So please, the last S, everywhere there has a function. The sweeping is to enable what? The chemical to envelope the whole what? Fire.
Let's do it one more time, then I think we can get back to know how to prevent fires. So today we're having a practical demonstration. When he did the shoe, I was getting a bit scared. Of course, you usually see some of these things. Today is a practical demonstration. Hey, let me shift. It's a practical demonstration on how to extinguish fires. You and I should make sure that we know how to use these things. There are a lot of videos on YouTube, but mind you, it's very heavy. The first time I tried lifting it, if you're not strong like me, don't try. You have to do regular exercises before you can lift, because the content in there is very heavy. We are not using the dry chemical powder because it's going to leave a lot of are we going to use it?
Sure.
Okay, so I think we'll use it. Okay, because today we are outside, so I think we can use it. All right, so let's go. Let's create fire. We're going to create fire again. Woo. Woo. Well, it's because you are trained, because I see how you are on it, and but it's nice. And I see that in less than 5 seconds the whole fire is off. So imagine somebody being able to use this. Even if there's fire in a room, the person can off it within 1 minute, can extinguish the fire within 1 minute using the fire extinguisher. I think the last time you were on the show, you mentioned that, I don't know if it's a dry chemical powder. When you use it, whether the content was able to extinguish the fire or not, you need to discard it and refill.
Yes.
That's which of them?
The dry powder.
Okay.
Yes. The dry powder, when you use it, then you have to refill it.
Whether it's finished in or not, you have to refill it?
Yes.
Why?
Why? Because the pressure gauge, like he mentioned earlier, the pressure gauge is what is most important. And so if you use it and then the gauge goes down. That means you have to refill.
Okay.
Unlike the CO2, when you use it, depending on the quantum or how extensive the fire is, will determine as whether there will still be content or not. For instance, the way he just used it, we can still use the CO2, yeah, like that. Yes, and so if there is another fire elsewhere, you can still use the CO2. Yes.
So for the purposes of being safe, like he has rightly mentioned, with the CO2, it's directly pressured. So the pressure until the content is exhausted. You cannot say you cannot use it. Unlike the dry powder, just like our bicycle tubes, the pressure has been stored in a certain amount. So once operated, whether you continue to use it or not, when you put it down, within some few minutes, the pressure all will escape. Even though there is a content in it, but the propellant, what will bring it out, which is the pressure, will not be there. And for that matter, it cannot be used. So that is why it is always good, fire extinguisher, once used, you bring it forward, re-examination and servicing.
Okay, so now let's get to that. Are we going to set fire again? Yes. For the last one? So last fire before we get back into the studios.
The dry chemical.
So it's a dry chemical powder we are about to use now. Okay.
Please.
Okay. So all right. So let me stand far from the fires. Okay. So he's about to set the fire. Ooh. So right now he's about to use a dry chemical powder to extinguish this fire. Okay, he's coming again. Okay. So why couldn't we use a dry chemical powder?
Let's explain that.
Okay, so let's explain that. I thought we were going to use a dry chemical powder. Oh, it's finished, or you've used it.
It's intentional. It's
Now,
intentional.
Like I told you, let him explain that too.
We want the public to understand the need for regular or periodic servicing of fire extinguishers. The reason being that we are always used to extinguishing fires with the extinguisher. You know that, oh, I bought an extinguisher brand new, so there's no any challenge or problem with it. And so in case of any emergency like this, I'll be able to use it. Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived, because it is not all new extinguishers or even old or new that can serve its purpose when you actually need it. The reason is that there could be other factors that may hinder it from usage or operating. One could be that there could be blockage, whereby the tube itself, there will be this blockage that will not allow the content to come out or expel when you strike the lever. Another thing is that the extinguisher itself might be used without your knowledge. Oh. Yes, sometimes you see that the extinguisher will be there without a pin. Somebody can mistakenly strike it and the content will be expelled. And you will not know. So in the event of real situations like this, you pick it and you are disappointed. And then there could be other factors that may prevent it from operating. And so we intentionally brought this so that we will not use it for the public to see. Wow. Yes.
So
our last session, we actually use it. And so this is why we try to change the dynamics this time, so that to let the public understand. When we say that there's a need for you to constantly, periodically service your extinguisher, it is
part of this
is very important.
Because if you don't service it, so how long should it take before you can service your extinguishers?
Yes, extinguishers ideally supposed to be, we'll call something re-inspection. You must have an re-examination of the extinguisher every 6 months to ensure that it is still in proper condition. If the service provider advises you, oh, this one is still in good shape, then you are rest assured that my extinguisher is in good condition. For that matter, I can still use it.
Okay.
So it ranges from 6 months to 12 months.
Okay, so these are all the practicals.
When you use it, immediately you use, then there's a need to reservice it, especially the dry chemical powder.
Yes, we'll get back into the conversation about how to service and all of that, but I want to be sure that is this all that we have to know about the practicals?
Sure. For with the practical aspect, this is basically what we need to know. One, we have demonstrated to you how to use a blanket to envelope a fire. We have also demonstrated to you how to use a fire extinguisher to extinguish a fire. But of course, there were two here. One has been able to work out. The other one, like he explained to you, is intentionally brought it so that the general public can understand that an extinguisher can fail you if you fail to adhere to all these advices we are giving to you by servicing it or ensuring that the safe way of keeping it. Because there are certain places you go, the way they even display their fire extinguisher, you know that it's not properly being kept, and this can lead to other factors like this.
Okay. I want us to go back into the studios and continue the conversation. We only came out today for us to have the practical training or observation on how to extinguish fires properly. Let's go back into the studios to conclude on this episode. Welcome back from that demonstration that you all saw out there. We just wanted you to understand the better, how to understand it better on how we can extinguish fires. I believe you saw how we demonstrated with the sack, we demonstrated with the carbon dioxide, and the most interesting thing that happened was what's the name?
Dry powder.
The dry powder couldn't. And that was because you said that if we do not service our fire extinguishers, you can actually see fire and you can't use it because you haven't serviced it, it can't work. So organizations and schools, let's all do well to train our staff on how to extinguish fires. Let's all do well to service our fire extinguishers, because it's not just enough to just have it there or have the certificate, but it's enough to have your team members know how to use it.
Yes.
Let's talk about the fire that happened.
Yes, that fire was a very big fire that the
I think
region,
for hours.
Yes.
It wasn't.
The region recorded, we fought the fire about 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours.
Wow.
And that was because of the content of the fire. The materials that was kept in the house. You realize that the house was actually for domestic and that of commercial.
I think
facility.
there's a shop that
Yes.
they have and they sell materials.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you have.
So everything got burnt?
Not really. We were able to salvage some of the rooms. That is for the accommodation purpose.
But the shop?
But the shops were actually burned totally. But
so much investment gone.
we were fortunate because of the tactical way we handled the fire. That was how come. Had it not been that, I think even other houses, adjoining houses, would have also
Because
been.
that's a central,
Yes.
like, if you know Tamale very well, that's like the central, because that is just opposite the taxi rank.
Taxi
Yes.
rank, sure.
And even at that point, if you're in Tamale, to even cross from that point to even Quality First, you can take up to 20 minutes to go there because of the go slow nature.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I saw short videos of people not willing to move.
Yes.
Everybody wants to stand and see what is happening.
I think that's one of our challenges.
Yes, I think we'll look at that.
Sometimes the public will always obstruct us
From fighting.
even directing us or instructing us on what to do, when actually they are not supposed to be doing that.
Wow.
And so there were some of our challenges, and in fact, we really faced a lot tackling that particular fire. But all in all, we thank God we were able to control the situation, and everything.
Were lives lost?
No,
Thank God.
fortunately, no life was lost. Yes, but properties were actually lost, worth millions of cedis.
Yeah, because
Yes.
it's a big shop.
Yes.
It's like the biggest shop in town if you're looking for trending materials for your dresses.
Yes.
So now we've seen the fire extinguishers, we've seen the sack.
Yes.
Let's talk about the fireballs. Let's talk about the fire alarm.
So with the fireballs and then the fire alarms, for instance, when you talk of fireball, we actually use them to put out fires, just like the fire extinguisher that you saw out there we demonstrated. But with the fireballs, it's easy. For instance, when I say it is easy, what I mean is that everybody can easily use it, because you don't need to go through so many processes in order to use it.
Okay.
You need to get hold of the ball, roll it gently to wherever the fire is. Once it gets to the seat of the fire, or where exactly it's burning, the heat will explode the ball, and then the chemical, mostly is a dry powder
Okay.
that is stored in the ball,
Okay.
will explode and then envelope or cover the burning surface.
Okay.
And then automatically we expect that within some few seconds the fire will go off.
Are they available and accessible? I hardly hear or see about the fireballs.
Fireballs are available if you need it. But sometimes, like we always say, we do not encourage people to go to the roadside to look for these equipments.
Okay.
Once you are an organization or individual, you need them, please seek for, our technical advice.
Okay.
So that you can purchase them, we can assist you as to how to install them, or how to even use them, and those kind of things. Just like our earlier conversation, it is not enough, absolutely not enough, to just get hold of a fire extinguisher or fireball and you think that is all of it.
Okay.
You need all this I have put across to do so. And then you also ask of the detector, fire detector. Yes, these fire detectors, we call them fire alarm systems. They comprise a lot. We have what we call smoke detector.
Okay.
That smoke detector, it is basically installed in order to pick smoke, because we always say that there's no fire without smoke. So once it senses the smoke, it begins to give unusual noise that we call alarm. It begins to give you this kind of alarm that whoever is around will be suspicious and move into to see what is happening. So once you get in there and you find out that no, the situation is uncomfortable and that it is fire that is about to happen, then you go in for the fire extinguishers.
Okay.
So basically, the work of the smoke detectors is to inform you that fire is about to happen at point A or point B. And for that matter, you need to come and then save the situation.
We hear that when they call you to come and extinguish our fires, you say you don't have water, you don't have petrol in your vehicles. They say that you even come without anything. Tell us.
That's just.
I wish Mr. Baba was here. He would have aggressive. What's the name, Mr.
Banzaba.
Banzaba? He would have said no. It's not true. The last time I was challenging him on that.
You see, this is.
Are we accusing you wrongly?
It's wrongly.
Oh, but there are
accusation.
times as we've seen that
It's wrong
we've seen even
accusation.
videos or that you put when they call you to come and extinguish fires. There's no water in your
That
vehicles.
is not possible. You know, water, just like the military, the army or the police, water is our weapon. And so there's no way we'll go to the battlefield without our weapon. Yes, that is one. And another thing is that our vehicles parked there have water 24/7. We do what we call the routine checks. Any group
You go to refill. I think I've seen your,
Yes.
your vehicles at Tipole Junction.
that is it, filling it. There's no way a group will come to take over from the other group and
There's no water.
there won't be water. They won't take over. That's one. But one thing that makes the public feel we come without water or limited water is that they don't know how our activities is done. Now, for instance, our vehicles are of different capacity. Now, when we come, depending on the situation, the intensity of the fire will inform us after assessment, will inform us how we should operate the pump.
Okay.
And it is the rate at which the pump is operated determines how many minutes the water will be exhausted.
Okay.
And so, for instance, if we have 3,000 liters capacity, we can use 3 to 5 minutes to expel the content of
Wow.
that vehicle. So you, a layman, who was there before our arrival and our operation, you will say we didn't come with enough water, when actually the vehicle was full.
So there are times that you can have up to 2 or 3 tankers there
Yes,
to extinguish.
yes. Just like the fire we explained, I think we had 4 vehicles there.
Wow.
And even the 4, it wasn't enough.
Because I think
They
it was
have to be going and coming.
the petrol content.
Yes.
Wow.
They have to be going and coming.
And I believe people in the market were also adding you water.
That is it. So the public must understand. I think I have been trying to have collaboration with you, the media, to see how we can experiment this. I am going to invite media houses to come so that we monitor or see how we operate. That means that we are going to check the level of the water level of the vehicle and then time ourselves to see how many minutes we use to expel the water.
Wow.
So that the public will understand. All you need to do is to call the fire service in time. This is one thing.
Do you pick when we call you in time?
Yes, we pick because we have people manning our communication.
Do you get
room.
prank calls?
Yes, we get prank
Still?
calls. Very much. After the prank calls, we don't know when it will stop, but I believe.
Do you think these are just like children who just pick up and call you,
not
or even adults?
Adults. You
They'll
have,
call and say there's fire here when there's no fire.
yes, even sometimes they call to play with our ladies. Yes, they call to play.
Wait.
So that means that you are delaying, blocking somebody who
So they will
wants.
call you, and if it's a lady, they will, you have a nice voice.
Yeah. Those kind of talks.
So it begins to engage the person. And
Oh, really?
unless
Oh, men,
not.
Ghana
this,
men, why?
this is an emergency line for that
Emergency
matter.
like you want to toast a girl dead.
So we are facing a lot, but the public will not understand this. I have the data. As at 2022, we recorded 12 prank calls
12.
Yes, 2021.
That's just for Tamale.
for Northern region alone.
12.
12. 2021, it was 9. Yes.
This year, let's make it 0.
This year, unfortunately, we have recorded 1 already. So there's no way. It's part of us.
We are really facing a lot.
Yes.
Really facing a lot.
We are facing a lot.
Give us your final words.
Yes. What we have to say is that the public must understand that safety is a shared responsibility. We all must come to the table. We all must accept safety, just like we have prioritized security. We should understand that it is when your life is secured that we can talk about your security. Your property, it is when your property is safe that you can now talk about protecting it from theft. So we should all accept that there's the need for us to ensure the safety of our lives and our properties.
Okay.
So that we will be able to, in a way, follow all the safety protocols.
Okay.
So that it will help us in curbing this preventable fires that we are recording in the region.
Thank you so
much. Let me add this. In fact, 2022 alone, we recorded 391 incidents in the region.
Only region?
Yes, only northern region. Against 2021, where it was 367. So 2022 saw an increase in the numbers.
Wow.
It is something the
We
region
need to be
or
careful
the
so
command
this year we don't have
is
a lot
working
of,
towards. And so we are trying to see how we can actually reduce. If we cannot prevent, at least we should reduce the numbers.
Okay.
And we are yielding results already.
Okay.
Because I'm happy to inform you that in January last year, we recorded 81. This year, we recorded 47.
Wow, so
yes.
much.
And February hasn't ended yet. But last year, February was 54. But currently, as we speak, we recorded 25.
Great.
So we are anticipating a reduction.
As a guest,
Yes. So
thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. I've been speaking with ADO2 Hudu Baba. He's the Northern Regional PRO for the Ghana National Fire Service, and ADO2 Yusuf Alidu. He's part of the Regional Safety Department for Northern Region, helping us to understand how to extinguish fires. And we've done from the theory to the practical perspective. And I believe that this episode has been amazing. We've all learned how to be careful, how to extinguish fires, and how to all stay safe and give our friends and family the kind of advice and safety measures that they need, because we can lose a lot of property and a lot of lives. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.